Now, the Chinese commitment to a multilateral trading agreement and further opening of its economy is welcome news globally, especially to the United States. This as Team Trump and China engage in trade talks with the goal of ending the tariff war. So next on the docket is the Fed, and Wednesday is D-Day. Joining me now on the Daily Ledger Page 5 beat from our bureau in New York City, founder and managing partner of Geltrude and Company, LLC, business analyst and professor of accounting at Montclair State University, Daniel Geltrude. Daniel, when President Xi says that China will never pursue, quote, dominance, when you look at that from a trade perspective, how do you interpret that? Does that say that he's ready to wheel and deal with the Trump administration?
Well, I think President Xi, Graham, is playing it very close to the vest. He's the complete opposite of President Trump. He doesn't want to signal anything one way or the other. But I do believe, in spite of what President Xi said during that speech, which really turned out to be not much at all, is that China is ready to come to the table and start negotiating with the United States. Why? Because the Chinese economy can't afford a trade war with the United States. Now, look, nobody wants a trade war. These tariffs are not good for us in the United States. It's not good for anybody. However, President Trump, I do believe, is correct in playing this out all the way in tough negotiations. It's going to be some short-term pain for long-term gain. I think that ultimately China will come to the table and they will negotiate. And by and large, President Trump is going to get what he wants in these negotiations.
Yeah, so tariffs are a means to an end here. As long as those tariffs eventually go away, they're negotiating too. And the president is tweeting also about what's happening later this week, and that would be the Federal Reserve. He says, I hope the people over at the Fed will read today's Wall Street Journal editorial before they make yet another mistake. Feel the market. Don't just go by meaningless numbers, and good luck. And what the Wall Street Journal editorial essentially says is what President Trump has been pleading for the last couple, 3 weeks, maybe months, and that is hit the pause button in terms of raising rates. You think that's going to happen?
No, I don't. I actually think that the Fed is going to raise rates this time. I'm not so sure that'll continue into 2019, and I'll tell you why, Graham. Jay Powell's really in a tough situation. You and I wouldn't want his job right now, because the problem that he has is that the Fed held the rates down for far too long. Now we're in a situation where rates are low, and we have to think about the future. At some point in time, all the pundits that are predicting a recession will be right. I don't know when that'll be, but they'll be right that a recession will hit. We need some room in that interest rate. If rates are too low, we have nowhere to go to try to keep the economy moving forward. So it's really a tough position that he's in. However, I think he is going to raise. I think we're going to get an announcement that he is going to raise the Fed rates this time, and then it's going to be a wait and see into 2019, and we'll see how the economy plays out.
Well, the people who are predicting a recession are kind of like the people who predict the end of the world. At some point, they're going to be right, correct? See, but the problem is the indicators aren't pointing to a recession. We have robust employment. We have virtually no inflation. Sure, the inverted yield curve kind of swerved into each other. I think it was last week, and that is the interest rates. Long-term and short-term interest rates. But overall, the economy is pretty strong.
It absolutely is. And here's what the problem is that people equate the economy with the stock market, and they're not one and the same. The American economy right now is extraordinarily strong. You can't look at what's going on at the stock market. As I like to say, the stock market has a very short attention span, right? It seems to be constantly chasing that shiny object. So we can't look at things that way. If you look at the numbers you were citing, whether it's unemployment and GDP growth and wages going up, all the signs, and inflation being low. If you look at all these signs, they're all positive, and that's really what we need to be focused on, and we can't get distracted on what's going on with Wall Street.
And one more thing, there's a housing starts report out today, and it's very strong. And this essentially is a crystal ball looking in the future of building and construction in this country, and it's looking very, very strong. Another indicator the economy is doing pretty well. Daniel, thanks.